Stop scrolling for just a moment and give yourself a chance to actually feel where you are right now, because most people don't do that anymore. They move from one distraction to another, from one screen to the next, never really stopping long enough to understand what's going on inside their own mind. But something about this moment is different, because out of all the things you could be doing right now, you ended up here, watching this, and maybe you don't even know why. Maybe it was just habit, maybe it was curiosity, or maybe there's a part of you that's been quietly searching for something more, something real, something that finally makes sense of everything you've been feeling lately. And if that's true, then stay with me, because this might be exactly what you needed to hear. Life hasn't been easy for you recently, and you don't need anyone to tell you that. You've been carrying things that most people around you don't even notice. On the outside, everything might look normal. You show up, you do what you're supposed to do, you respond to people, you keep things moving. But internally, it feels different. There's a weight there, something you can't fully explain, something that sits in the back of your mind even when you're trying to ignore it. There are nights when you can't sleep properly because your thoughts just keep going, replaying conversations, overanalyzing decisions, wondering if you're making the right moves or wasting your time completely. And the hardest part is that you don't always have someone who truly understands what you're going through, so you deal with it quietly, holding it in, pretending you're fine even when you're not. At some point, you probably started questioning yourself. You wondered if maybe you're the problem, if maybe you're not doing enough, or not good enough, or not disciplined enough. You see other people moving forward, achieving things, posting their wins, and it makes you feel like you're falling behind. Like everyone else has it figured out and you're the only one stuck in the same place, trying but not getting anywhere. And that feeling, that quiet frustration mixed with self-doubt, can slowly start to wear you down if you let it. But here's something important that you need to understand clearly, and I mean really understand, not just hear and forget. Feeling stuck does not mean you are failing. It doesn't mean you are broken. It doesn't mean you've missed your chance. Most of the time, it simply means you are in a phase of your life that requires patience, clarity, and growth that isn't immediately visible. What you're experiencing right now is not uncommon, even though it feels personal. In fact, almost everyone who eventually builds something meaningful goes through a period where nothing seems to work. Where effort doesn't match results, where progress feels invisible, where motivation goes up and down, and where doubt becomes louder than confidence. The difference is that most people don't talk about this part. They only show the outcome, the success, the highlight moments, but they rarely show the confusion, the setbacks, the uncertainty that came before it. So when you're in that messy middle phase, it's easy to believe that you're doing something wrong, when in reality, you're just in the process. And the process is not supposed to feel comfortable. Growth never does. It challenges your identity, your habits, your way of thinking. It forces you to question things you once believed were certain. It puts you in situations where you don't feel fully in control, and that can be frustrating. There will be days when you feel motivated, clear, and ready to take on everything, and then there will be days when you feel completely lost, where even simple tasks feel heavy and overwhelming. That inconsistency doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're adapting, learning, and slowly building something deeper than just surface-level success. If you think about your own life, you've already been through difficult moments before. There were times when you didn't think you'd be able to handle what was in front of you, times when everything felt uncertain, and yet somehow, you got through them. You didn't have all the answers then either, but you figured things out step by step. That's something you need to remind yourself of more often, because the same strength that carried you through those moments still exists in you right now. It didn't disappear. It's just harder to recognize when you're in the middle of another challenge. One of the biggest reasons you feel stuck is not because you lack ability, but because your mind is overloaded. You're thinking about too many things at once, trying to plan everything perfectly, trying to avoid mistakes, trying to figure out the best possible path before even taking the first step. And that pressure to get everything right can actually stop you from moving at all. It creates hesitation, and hesitation creates delay, and over time, that delay starts to feel like failure. But the truth is, clarity does not come from thinking alone. It comes from action. From trying, adjusting, learning, and repeating. You don't need to have everything figured out to start moving forward. You just need to be willing to take the next step, even if it's small. There is a moment in everyone's journey where things feel the hardest, and it's usually not at the beginning. It's in the middle, after you've already put in effort but haven't seen the results yet. That's where most people give up, not because they're incapable, but because they assume that the lack of visible progress means it's not working. They don't realize that they are often closer than they think, that the skills, awareness, and resilience they've been building are about to start showing up in real ways. But if they quit too early, they never get to see that shift happen. What changes everything is not a sudden breakthrough or a perfect opportunity, but a decision. A decision to keep going despite uncertainty, to keep showing up even when motivation is low, to trust that the process is working even when you can't fully see it yet. That decision doesn't feel dramatic. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it's powerful. Because once you make it, your actions start to align with it. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating progress with what you have. At some point, your perspective begins to shift. Instead of asking why things are going wrong, you start asking what you can learn from them. Instead of seeing yourself as stuck, you start recognizing that you are in a phase of figuring things out. And that shift in thinking changes how you approach everything. Your energy becomes more focused, your actions become more consistent, and slowly, results begin to follow. Not instantly, not all at once, but gradually, in a way that feels real and sustainable. If you keep going, if you stay consistent even when it's not exciting, even when it's not easy, you will reach a point where things start to feel different. You'll have more clarity, more confidence, more control over your direction. The things that once confused you will start to make sense. The actions that once felt difficult will start to feel natural. And when you look back at this phase of your life, you'll realize that it was never a waste of time. It was a foundation. It was the period where you built the mindset, the habits, and the resilience that made everything else possible. Right now, you don't need to fix your entire life. You don't need to solve every problem or answer every question. You just need to move forward, one step at a time. That step might be small, it might not feel significant, but it matters more than you think. Because progress is not about big, dramatic changes. It's about consistent movement in the right direction. And every time you take a step, no matter how small, you prove to yourself that you are not stuck, that you are capable of change, that you are still moving forward. So when this ends, don't just go back to doing nothing. Don't just let this be another video you watched and forgot. Take something from it and apply it, even if it's just one action. Because your future is not determined by what you think or what you plan, but by what you actually do. And if you keep taking action, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, you will get to where you want to be. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're just in the part of your journey where things are being built, even if you can't fully see it yet. And if you stay patient, stay consistent, and keep moving forward, there will come a time when everything starts to make sense. And the truth is, most people never reach that moment, not because they aren't capable, but because they stop just before things begin to change. They get tired of waiting, tired of trying, tired of not seeing results, and they convince themselves that it's better to stay where they are than to keep pushing through uncertainty. But what they don't realize is that the version of life they're hoping for is usually just on the other side of that discomfort. It's hidden behind the days when you don't feel like trying, behind the moments when doubt feels louder than belief, behind the phase where nothing seems to be working but everything is quietly aligning in the background. You have to understand something that most people overlook. Progress is not always visible. Just because you can't see results yet doesn't mean nothing is happening. There are changes taking place within you that are more important than immediate outcomes. Your way of thinking is evolving. Your tolerance for discomfort is increasing. Your awareness is expanding. And these are the things that actually determine long-term success, not quick wins or short bursts of motivation. Anyone can feel motivated for a day or two, but not everyone can stay consistent when things feel slow, repetitive, or uncertain. That's where the real difference is made. There will be moments where you question everything again. Moments where you feel like you're going in circles, like you're putting in effort without direction. That's normal. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're still in the process of figuring things out. And figuring things out takes time. It takes trial and error. It takes patience. You're not supposed to have all the answers right now. In fact, trying to force clarity too early often creates more confusion. Sometimes the only way to understand the right path is to walk through the wrong ones first. What matters is that you keep moving. Even if it's slow. Even if it feels insignificant. Because movement creates momentum, and momentum creates clarity. The more you act, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more confident you become. And the more confident you become, the easier it gets to take bigger steps. But none of that happens if you stay stuck in overthinking, waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. You might not feel confident right now. You might not feel ready. But confidence doesn't come before action, it comes from it. Every time you do something you were unsure about, every time you push through hesitation, every time you take a step despite doubt, you build confidence. Not by thinking, but by doing. And over time, those small actions start to change how you see yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is stuck, and you start seeing yourself as someone who is capable of figuring things out, no matter how long it takes. There's also something else you need to recognize. The pressure you feel to have everything figured out by now is not entirely your own. It comes from comparison. From constantly seeing other people's progress, their highlights, their achievements. It creates an illusion that everyone else is ahead and you're behind. But you're not seeing their full reality. You're seeing selected moments, not the struggles, not the uncertainty, not the failures they went through to get there. When you compare your full journey to someone else's highlight moments, you will always feel like you're falling short. That's not a fair comparison, and it's not a useful one either. Your path is different. Your timing is different. And that's not a disadvantage. It's just reality. Not everything is meant to happen at the same pace for everyone. Some things take longer because they require you to become a different version of yourself first. And that transformation cannot be rushed. It happens gradually, through experiences, through challenges, through moments that test you and force you to grow. It might not feel good in the moment, but it prepares you for things you're not ready for yet. At some point, you'll notice a shift. It won't be dramatic or sudden. It will be subtle. You'll start handling situations differently. Things that used to overwhelm you won't affect you the same way. Decisions that once felt confusing will become clearer. You'll feel more grounded, more certain of your direction, even if everything isn't perfect yet. That's when you realize that growth was happening all along, just not in a way you could immediately see. And when that shift happens, you begin to trust yourself more. You stop needing constant validation from others. You stop overanalyzing every step. You start moving with more intention, more clarity, more confidence in your ability to adapt and handle whatever comes next. That's a powerful place to be, because it means you're no longer dependent on perfect conditions to move forward. You've learned how to create progress regardless of circumstances. But getting there requires patience. It requires you to stay committed even when things feel slow. It requires you to keep showing up even when motivation is low. Because motivation is not something you can rely on long term. It comes and goes. What actually moves your life forward is consistency. Doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Not in a forced or exhausting way, but in a steady, disciplined way that builds over time. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. What you need is to stay in the process, to keep learning, to keep adjusting, to keep moving. Because as long as you're moving, you're not stuck. You might feel like you are, but you're not. Stagnation only happens when you stop completely, when you give up on trying, when you decide that nothing will change. As long as you haven't made that decision, you're still in motion, even if it doesn't feel like it. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, you'll reach a point where things start to come together. Opportunities will begin to make sense. Your efforts will start to show results. Your direction will feel clearer. And you'll look back at this phase, the one that felt confusing and frustrating, and you'll understand why it had to happen this way. You'll see how it shaped you, how it prepared you, how it forced you to develop the mindset and strength you needed for what came next. So right now, instead of focusing on everything that's uncertain, focus on what you can control. Your next step. Your next action. Your next decision. Keep it simple. Keep it manageable. You don't need to overwhelm yourself by thinking about the entire journey. Just take the next step, and then the next one after that. That's how progress is made, not in big leaps, but in consistent, deliberate movement over time. And if you ever feel like you're falling behind again, remind yourself of this. You are not on anyone else's timeline. You are not supposed to move at someone else's pace. Your journey is your own, and it's unfolding in a way that is shaping you into who you need to become. Trust that process, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unclear, because clarity comes with time and action, not with waiting and overthinking. Keep going. Even when it's hard. Even when it feels slow. Even when you're not sure if it's working. Because the moment you're in right now is not the end. It's just part of the path. And as long as you stay on that path, as long as you keep moving forward, things will change.